Has anybody ever tried to rate a tornado?
And I would like to know why you can never get to the end of a rainbow.
What's the worst disaster in Iowa?
What are your top 3 movies that involve weather?
Welcome to Weathered Questions, where we answer the questions on your radar.
Welcome into another episode here of Weathered Questions. This is our final one for the month of April 2026. Time keeps on flying by, and we continue to get some great interaction with you all, and we thank you for that. We thank you for listening and the positive feedback, and also just the constant questions that are bouncing around in your head, because without you, we're not able to answer some of these questions, because sometimes out of the blue, we don't think about these. And we've actually had to do a little bit of research on these, Jan. So it's going to be a fun episode coming up. We do encourage you to continue to submit your questions, continue to keep that brain going. We want to know what's on your radar. You can email us your questions to weatheredquestions@gmail.com to join in on the conversation. We're going to have a brand new question coming up here this episode. So first things first, we're getting through spring. We're seeing a whole bunch of different cloud types. If you're just joining us for a first-time listener, we have started this thing called Cloud of the Week, and we started that here back in this season. The thing about it is eventually we're going to run out of clouds.
Yep.
We know this.
Might just be a season 4 thing.
It might just be a season 4 thing, and that's okay. So today we're going to kind of combine 2 of them, Jan. So I'm going to kick it your way in a second. The Cloud of the Week, it's going to be 2 clouds. Cirrocumulus and altocumulus. And for folks listening, you'll notice that there's a common word between the 2.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about cumulus clouds already. In fact, I think that was maybe our first. Nope, it was not our first one. I lied. It was a cloud we talked about a couple episodes back. But cumulus clouds are one of our more common ones. So they are the little puffy cotton ball-like clouds that just kind of float happily through the air on a nice summer day. As I describe them to kids, they're the ones that you're looking for shapes in the clouds in. That's an average, normal cumulus cloud. We're talking, though, cirrocumulus and altocumulus. And what those modifiers mean is it relates to the layer of the clouds. So if you remember, we also talked about cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds are high up in the air. So a cirrocumulus cloud combines those 2. It is a very high up cumulus cloud. An altocumulus cloud, usually alto, just like if you think about choir or something like that, alto refers to that middle level, that middle range. And so altocumulus clouds are going to be mid-level cumulus clouds. And really what the difference here is, they form all very similarly with our rising moist and warm air, but it's the layer that those clouds are forming in, the amount of moisture available to them, and the dryness and the turbulence and everything else that's going on at the different layers as you get higher up into the atmosphere is why these clouds might look just slightly different. So again, our cumulus clouds, average cumulus cloud, that's going to be a big puffy cotton ball. Altocumulus cloud is a little higher up. It's going to be a little bit smaller, actually. And then the highest up, those cirrocumulus clouds are going to be much, much smaller. But again, still the same kind of basic premise of little piles of cloud fluff, we'll call that. And a lot of times you'll see these forming in like rows, or little like sections. They're very kind of organized as they're forming. So that's maybe one kind of thing you could look for as you're looking to see if it is one of those clouds. And this isn't a term I've really ever used, but I have heard people use it, and kids have actually asked about it at school visits, a mackerel sky. So that's another kind of thing. If that means something to you, if you know what that means, that is one of these types. It could be either cirro or altocumulus, but basically those rows of clouds again, referring to that mackerel sky. And again, cirro and altocumulus clouds.
I agree with you.
Lots thrown at you there.
Yeah, well, and I was just going to say mackerel sky if you didn't. It's another term that I'm aware of. I don't use it, though.
Yeah, same.
And that just also kind of refers to the fact that some of these kind of look like fish scales up there in the sky. Some of them are kind of circular and flat, just to what you had said. So that's where that term comes in. But I typically don't. I don't use that term. I don't know why. I mean, it was a taught term. I just don't use it.
Yeah, like I said, like I've heard of it, but yeah, I don't know if it's just the meteorologist in us that we go more towards the, what type of cloud it is versus what it looks like. Because even like a cirrus cloud, I wouldn't refer to it as a mare's tail, but I've heard of that,
Yeah.
right? So I think those are maybe more, old timey references that we just maybe don't use as much anymore.
Possibly. I can
I
tell
don't
you,
know.
though, that both of those clouds are high, and usually it's going to be in the sub-freezing level of the atmosphere. So
Yes.
pretty icy, especially when you get that word cirro put in front of anything. Now you're pretty much an ice-based cloud. So
Yep.
good stuff. Absolutely good stuff.
Yeah. So there you go. 2 clouds for the price of 1 this week. Now let's move into some fun stuff. Kai, I asked you as we were getting ready for the show, have you ever watched Miss Congeniality?
Nope. I have not.
And somehow I'm not surprised.
I have not.
But today's we have an audio question today, and you need a little bit of background from Miss Congeniality. We'll let it play through here because our guest does give us a little bit of background, and then I'll fill in for you there.
Hi, Jan and Kai. My question relates to the beloved rom-com Miss Congeniality, where contestant Cheryl absolutely biffs the interview portion of the beauty contest by saying her idea of a perfect date is April 25th because all you need is a light jacket. I'm curious, what date do you think consistently has the best weather?
All right, so this is just the difference between Kai and me. I have seen this movie many times. I knew exactly where this was going. As soon as it started, Kai was like, "What is happening here?"
No idea.
So Miss Rhode Island asks us or answers what the perfect date is. She thinks it's April 25th, which consequently was just a few days back for us.
Yeah.
So that brings up what's the best date, right? And I think there's a couple different ways we could attack this. You had a fun way to attack it, though. I appreciated your approach to it.
Yes, I had a fun way. And with something along these lines, first off, we have to just quantify what is best weather. And everybody's going to have a slightly different opinion. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shoot for, 70 degrees or so.
I polled my husband. I was like, Drew, what do you think is the best weather? And he said mid 60s to low 70s, partly cloudy, light breeze.
Okay. All right. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we were both thinking too. So that's 3 people that think that. If you think differently, please write us and let us know, and we'll do some more research for you.
So this is a fun kind of take on everything here. So there is a climatologist out there, and he lives up in Alaska. His name is Brian Brett Schneider. He has some really fantastic content that he puts out there. And this is one of those situations where if you just happen to have a complete year on your hands with nothing better to do, I don't think that's any of our listeners, but maybe. Here's what Brian did. He made 3 different routes throughout the United States, of which, if you timed it out right, in these areas, you would have an average temperature, normal high, of 70 year-round. Okay? So it first starts down in Brownsville, Texas in January. Then it moves up to Corpus Christi in February. Then he moves towards Houston in March. And then now you're going to start to cook in Texas. Texas is going to start hitting 100 degrees in April. So you got to go north now. So Oklahoma City by April. Make sure you're in Oklahoma City by April. You're too late. Then you get to Kansas City in May. And then he gets us all the way through Chicago. Doesn't stop in Chicago, but then goes up to the Twin Cities by June 1st. And
by way of Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, which is where most of our listeners come from,
true.
Just so you know.
So yeah, he does go through Des Moines. He does go through Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, loops back through Chicago, and then goes up into the kind of through the Badlands area and winds up into northern Montana in July. And then moves his way into Wyoming in August, back up to southern sections of Montana in September, western Nebraska in October, and now we're going to get down to the desert Southwest to finish it out, close to Albuquerque in November and close to Phoenix in December. And so by doing that, he had cranked out all the average highs over the years and all the temperatures over the years. And so that is his road trip following a 70-degree normal high for the whole year. And it makes sense, actually, to do that. Now, you're going to have anomalies throughout the entire time. But what he basically did there is an exercise on what part of the country has an average high around 70, and then just go there. Mm-hmm. Except he did it for the whole year and then connected it through the roads. So there's a whole lot of I-35.
Yep,
a whole lot of I-80. And then there's some variety of roads out in the mountains, and then finishes this thing out going into Phoenix. So I thought that was a cool feature. And when you mentioned this, I thought that was kind of cool to talk about that.
Yeah.
If it's not the best weather where you are, you can always go find it.
Exactly. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, 70 degrees somewhere.
Yes, it is. You're right.
I took a similar approach. I kind of looked at, where do we average that first 70 degree? Because I feel like, getting to 70 in the fall, having those nice fall days is great. But I feel like you appreciate it more in the spring when you haven't had the warm weather for a while.
True. Very true.
So Des Moines area, usually, I looked at all of the records we have, averages around March 23rd is the first 70. Minneapolis, April 12th. The Washington, D.C. area, February 25th. Dallas, Texas, this was an early one, January 11th. And their last one is December 21st. So they really only have about a month without 70 degrees, which, again, if you're from Texas, right? It gets toasty. Philadelphia around March 20th, and Anchorage, Alaska. That was one that was surprising how late it was, even though I know it's Alaska, June 6th.
Or the fact that it even makes it to begin with.
Fair. Also
That's
good
fair.
point.
A lot of people think Alaska is just a big, huge ice chunk, and it's really not. I have heard that land up there is one of the most beautiful trips you'll ever take.
Oh, it's insane.
I've never been there.
It really is. My uncle used to live there, so I've had the pleasure.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And it can be really awesome. So, and then that's the thing is like, okay, all these 70-degree targets are moving targets. Yes. Consistently at that temp, gosh, Southwest California, away from a microclimate maybe.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, plus or
San
minus
Diego.
10 degrees, minus Hurricane Hillary.
Yeah.
That came through the area.
Well, and I think that's the trick, right? Like temperature is one thing, but there is no consistent date. We can't find consistent dates for no clouds or no rain or something like that. We do have some general climatology on wind. Unfortunately, if you're looking for a light wind, probably the first 70 is not going to be when you're getting a light wind. Generally, you get stronger winds in the springtime. So ultimately, here to say that Miss Rhode Island may have had it pretty well right with April 25th, and we may just give her the credit and say that's the best date and run with it.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. Based on the data, it seems legit. I mean, close.
It's science now. It's not just a movie quote. It's science.
We can't just use feelings on this. We've got to actually look at data and figure this out. Who even stars in that film? Who stars in the movie?
Sandra Bullock.
Okay, all right. She was in Speed, right?
I don't know.
The one with the bus and the bomb.
I'm not a movie person.
I think she was in Speed.
I've seen Miss Congeniality, and that's about it.
I'm not a big movie person either. I've got a hard time sitting down for 2 hours at a time. I'm pretty sure she was in Speed, though.
I believe you.
Well, I hope so. I'm only about half confident in that, but confident enough to say it here.
Well, William Shatner's in it too.
In
Forgot
Speed?
about him. No, in Miss Congeniality.
Okay, good.
Now, all right. Now we're getting off track.
All right.
You can go back and listen to our weather movie episode back in season 1.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit severe weather here for the rest of the show. Today's trivia question will give you a little bit to think about. What % of people struck by lightning are killed? What % of people who get struck by lightning is it fatal for? You can think about that for a little bit, and we'll be right back. All right, today's trivia question, what % of people who are struck by lightning are killed? Kai, did you have any guesses on this one?
I didn't really have any great guesses. I knew that it was probably fairly low because it's not every lightning victim. Honestly, coming into it, I thought it was close to 25%. I thought it was 1 out of 4. That would have been my answer.
Yeah, I was surprised it was as low as it was too. According to the National Weather Service, it is only about 10% of people who are struck by lightning are killed. The other 90%, generally some form of disability after it. It's not like, you're walking off scot-free, but about 10%. Yeah. So
I have a weather spotter friend. He got struck on his foot and it wound up burning up his sock. And occasionally he gets some nerve pain in that foot. It's not like it's all the time, but something will flare it up randomly. And I think that's probably exactly what the Weather Service is talking about with lingering effects through your lifetime. It's not something you want ever to happen.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, there's going to be either a scar or some type of burn, something along those lines, are probably at least going to be left there. But yeah, that's actually a fairly low number, which is good. And then I also know that in the past 10 years, we have seen lightning fatalities drop overall, which is good. Yeah. And that means the safety campaigns are working, because when we were in college, it was higher than what it is now. And that's a good thing. That means these lightning safety campaigns are getting out there. And, the crazy part about a lot of these lightning deaths are not what you would think. It's somebody walking from a grocery store to their van. Yeah. Something as simple as walking to the school bus. We had a couple fatalities either last year or the year prior where it was 2 people who got struck and they were just walking to school. It's very simple. And it doesn't even have to be raining, by the way, either. So lightning.
I think that's one of the trickiest things with lightning is that people don't realize that you can get struck up to 15 miles away from the parent thunderstorm. And you can, it doesn't even have to be cloudy overhead, right? No. Like, you can, if you've ever heard the term a bolt out of the blue, you can get a lightning strike pretty far away, pretty substantially far from where that storm actually is. And it may not seem like it. You may not even hear the thunder from it.
Well, and where do you think that phrase even came from? Because I guarantee you have family members. I know I have some, and I've got friends who just say, yeah, that fried chicken platter just came out of the blue. And I didn't even know that was coming. Well, it came from bolt out of the blue.
I didn't even think about that connection.
Out of the blue, yeah. When stuff comes out of the blue sky.
I've used that term, bolt out of the blue, so many times. I've never thought about that.
Clear blue sky, Jan. Landed on my plate. Big pile of fried chicken. How about that?
I genuinely never thought about that connection of it used outside of the weather world.
That's even all I can think of. It came out of the clear blue sky. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I've used both all the time, but I never thought about the fact that they do go together.
Came out of the blue.
Wild.
And people say it all the time. So
all right, so on that, on that, let's go into kind of related to that, but even broadening things a little bit. What sports are the most dangerous when it comes to weather? This came up in a conversation I was having recently, just kind of off the cuff, and so I threw it in here because it was a really great conversation. And I knew I had my answer, did a little more research and realized that it kind of goes a little deeper. But Kai, what was your answer here in that question?
My answer was 100% confident soccer, 100%, because it's played around the world and in wide open venues, wide open stadiums, wide open fields, and a whole lot of events that typically go on in climates that have storms. That's what I went with. Yep.
So soccer is specifically for lightning, right? And that was what I thought too. A lot of people think golf, which is a notorious one and is high up there because, again, you have a giant metal club that you're holding over your head, and there's usually lots of trees around that maybe someone would be sheltering under, things like that. So golf is pretty high up there for lightning, but soccer is higher. And surprisingly, in doing some research here, because like I said, soccer was also my initial answer, I found a report, National Weather Service has it posted, a detailed analysis of lightning deaths in the United States from 2006 to 2019. And it actually has fishing as the highest. So
that's wild.
Activity, right? Yeah. But fishing is a sport. So yeah, it has that as 10% of lightning deaths are attributed to fishing. And then Soccer's all the way down at 3%. Between those, you've got, like you just said, people just doing kind of average things, hanging
Yeah.
out at the beach, going camping, farming and ranching, riding a bike, motorcycle or ATV. That's all lumped together. So you could maybe argue that as a sport too. Boating, social gathering, just walking is at 4%. So again, the thing that you have to think about with a lot of these is kind of that setting of a wide open space, maybe a field, maybe a plain surface of water, but something where there's not a lot else going on, and that person is that high point, and so that's where the lightning is kind of drawn to.
Yep. You don't want to be the high
this.
point.
No,
Underneath trees can be dangerous too for lightning.
absolutely. Yes, because the tree becomes the high point and the lightning goes down through to the ground,
Yep.
and then you are still in danger.
Yep.
So.
Well, and I wonder if fishing had something to do indirectly also with just how fast can you get to shelter if you're out in a fishing boat?
Could be.
And it's not like you're going to jump in and swim. You don't want to do that. And I wonder just how many fishing deaths per year happen just because you think about flash flooding, we count those as deaths.
Yeah.
So if you've got a flooding death, is that related? Like if we have an accident on a lake and somebody goes overboard and they drown, is that, maybe the wind was gusty? Does that contribute?
Yeah.
I don't know. Exactly how they do the numbers.
And the question, we went straight to lightning, both of us, because that's the numbers that we get a lot of for dangerous weather. But that's a good point. If you're wading in a creek or something like that, how that totals. Doing again in my research here ahead of this a little bit, winter sports are actually attributed even more so than lightning deaths to injuries and fatalities because of all the ice and snow and how easy it is to lose control and stuff. Yep. So
that's a good one.
There's a lot of angles that you could take with that, but
yeah,
I don't know if we really left on a very hopeful note there. Basically, everything's dangerous.
Well, I mean, everything carries an element of risk. Yeah. Every time you leave your home, there's an element of risk of some kind. So, it's just a critical thinking type of deal. But that's also why all these different safety campaigns have been employed over the years.
Absolutely.
And just try to, once a year, just remind everybody of that stuff. There's lightning safety awareness and severe weather awareness and all that good stuff. Speaking of severe weather, there's been a lot of that this spring. We're very aware of that. Sometimes there's been a little bit of angst about timing. And we'll see an event get canceled and it's partly sunny. And you'll see an event stay on and it's storming. And somewhere in the middle, a communication breakdown happened. And so we're not going to hide it. Weather apps are one of the most sought after and utilized tools for weather today. Yeah. It's not your family at the dinner table watching the 6 o'clock news anymore. Some families do that. Many don't. We know this, based on people's lifestyles and what we're seeing in terms of mobile app downloads and things like that. So the question here before we get to the end of our program, how does estimated rain timing even work on weather apps? It's a great question. Jan, you want to take a quick shot at it?
Yeah. So what is happening there? It's automated. You do not have a person sitting at the computer sending every single person who lives everywhere a ping every now and again, even though it might feel very nice if a weather app says, "Hey, heads up," in a nice friendly voice. It's automated.
Yeah.
So sorry to burst anyone's bubble there, but essentially what's happening is it's looking at a lot of things. It's looking at those computer models, those numeric models, using data from those. It's using satellite and radar imagery, and using several different tools like that those human meteorologists are also using, but it is taking your location. If you have location services turned on your phone, taking your location and putting all of those puzzle pieces together of, hey, rain might happen in this place, and it's sending out a ping when it gets over a certain threshold, basically, is all that's happening. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes there's artifacts in the data that aren't actually happening, or again, the thing that you lose with having automated data that you don't that you wouldn't have necessarily as a problem as much with a human is that human can see when things are dying or when there's something that's going to impede, like maybe a different boundary or another storm that is going to intersect with it and cause something different to happen maybe than what that computer model is suggesting. But yeah, that's why you might get those kind of, well, they got it wrong again, kind of notifications, but it's not actually a person who's giving you that notification.
Yep. In most cases, that it's absolutely correct. There are very few locations and situations where, a television meteorologist may go and override, but it's very rare nowadays. And a lot of times if they do that, by the way, they will do that with a video. So they'll be able to override that way. But that's
a lot of times when they're overriding, it's the stuff that's actually in the app,
Yes.
the hour by hour stuff. It's not those automated notifications that you're getting that say rain will start in 13 minutes.
Yeah, and
those,
I think the
those are
biggest
automatic.
thing that really gets people frustrated is waking up at 7 a.m. and seeing a rain chance at 4, maybe a 3-hour chance, and then an hour later, now it's 5 to 8, and then another hour later, well, it moved back to 4 to 7, and then another hour later, now it's 3 to 6. And you're like, why is it doing this? Why don't they just keep it the same? Well, chances are the humans are keeping it the same. It's whatever the latest data that comes into the model at that point does. And the key on thunderstorms especially is something we call initialization. Does the model even have the initial conditions right? And if it doesn't, you'll never know that as an end consumer. You just hope that it's somewhere in the ballpark, whereas meteorologists can look at that and go, okay, yeah, it's not 75 degrees. It's definitely 63 outside. This model is off. So we need to take its output very carefully. And we see that in what we call convective storm season. And if a model's too hot and it blows up storms too strong, we oftentimes discount that and realize that the threat might actually be lower in the end.
Yep. Altogether, good to think of things more general and not necessarily take every single little thing verbatim, because you're going to have a better forecast that way.
That's right.
Well, that takes us to the end of yet another show. Thank you, everybody, for submitting your questions today. We had some great new ones that was kind of fun to get into. And like I said, we had to do a little research ourselves on some of them. So thank you for that. If you have further questions that you would like us to answer, please send them in. weatheredquestions, weathered with an ED, questions @gmail.com. Join in on the conversation. Let us know what's on your radar. Until then, stay safe.